Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Creepy Corner. Thank
Howdy,
you for
folks.
joining us. So, I remember at the end of last episode that we had talked about reading A Shattered Life, which is another top-rated story on No Sleep, r/No Sleep. But Marshall, did something that is really cool and wrote their own story for the podcast and for
Yeah, I
Reddit in
was.
general.
Yeah, I was kind of figured. I was like, oh well, we keep reading to these, and I'm like, you know what? I kind of feel like writing something. Don't know if it'll be any good. I mean, I'm kind of biased. I think it's all right. Maybe I'm the only one. You guys will see.
Yeah. Well, I'm freaking super excited. It's the title of this story is I Think Today is My Last Day on Earth.
Yes, by me.
So
Um,
there's not a lot of quotes in this story from what you tell me. So I'll be reading this and I'll be like discussing it. We'll interject with one another for the most part.
mhm.
Does that sound okay?
Oh, yeah, that's fine by me. There's a few that I don't mind. I don't mind reading out, but like I said, it's mostly there's only like one person in it, so there's not a whole lot of back and forth dialogue. But hey, I figured, you know what? Plus, there's some stuff in there I kind of want to see if you get it or not. So if you
Sure.
want to be like, hey, what's this mean? And there is because they did offer a tag. There is the self harm one I clicked. There's a few other things in there that I think would also fit, but I figure, might as well put that up there for anyone because I know that, as someone who has the depresso myself, I'm sure some people don't need to hear that if they don't
Mm.
aren't in the space for it. So
So
you have been warned.
perhaps in the future we should be like giving warnings. But I feel like for the most part, if people are clicking on a horror story, that they should
Yeah.
expect for upsetting content on some
hmm
level.
Yeah, I feel like it's kind of one of those things that are a given, but better safe than sorry. Rather, yeah. I mean, hey, some things you can handle better than other things, I think.
Mm,
You know,
for sure.
maybe yeah, if that makes any sense. But yeah, yeah, I think I did a good job. We'll see if you think I did a good job.
Well, for
And I can't wait if we get comments today about how terrible it was. I'll be very happy. I know. In the previous story, we had at least one person who really liked it, which was pretty cool. I don't know. I don't remember what their username was, but we saw that comment, and it makes us happy.
yeah, same. The last video didn't perform as well as we would have liked, but that's okay.
Mhm.
We will.
Hey, it is what it is.
It is what it is,
The
indeed.
maybe the YouTube gods will be happy with us today.
For the record, I have another set of stories that I wanted to potentially bring to the table for like readings for the show. Not horror stories, but I in like the last month or so have become a really big fan of the subreddit Humanity Fuck Yeah.
Oh, that's a fun one.
I like the stories on there. I'd love to read a few of them.
Oh, hell yeah. That would be cool.
That would be fun. I thought we could have like Helldivers as the B-roll for that. Feel like it's
Oh, yeah.
pretty
Yeah,
fitting.
that would be fitting. At the very least, I mean, I don't have Helldivers myself, probably a mistake, but hey, at the very least, I could always get XCOM.
That's true. That would also suit it.
Yeah, I think it's fitting.
So, getting into the story. I think today is my last day on Earth. I'm sitting here looking out the window of my childhood home, and since yesterday. And I can't see a way out. I suppose I'm writing this just to get some perspective. Yesterday, the weather was like most early days cool and damp. It still felt surreal. Only a week ago, I got the news. Mom decided to get a DNR order. I suppose I knew this was coming for a while. She had been sick for some time, but it still hurt. She was still sleeping as I did my morning chores for her. The farm animals needed tending, and I had yet to collect the mail down the hill. Something seemed to have spooked the animals. The horses were restless, and the goats kept crying despite how soothing I spoke. when I offered food or butt scratches. I figured some coyotes passed by last night, as I heard their yipping and howling all night.
Fun fact, if you want to befriend any animal, butt scratches are the way to go.
Butt scratches. Hey, if someone scratched my butt, I don't know how to finish that sentence.
I don't know either.
Who's scratching my butt? Any of y'all? Takers? Takers? Okay.
I'm sorry, I felt the need
No,
to
no. It was
impose
funny.
some levity. I'm so excited. I'm literally vibrating in my seat. I'm so excited.
After finishing up, I made my way to the mailbox. Mostly bills and junk I think you meant I looked through.
Oh, yeah.
It's okay.
There's supposed to be an eye there.
As I
No,
looked through
call
them.
me out. Call me out of my bullshit.
Only looking up to see 4 horse riders making their way down the road at a trot. I gave them a nod before walking back up to the house. Well, 4 horses? I mean, like, 4 men on horseback in the modern day, that usually is like a reference to the apocalypse, like the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse. Am I picking up on the right?
It could be, although it does sort of take place in a rural setting. So
Right.
you'll see. You'll see. You'll see.
Washing my
I'm glad you catch the vibe, though.
yeah, washing my hands before finding the TV remote, I turned it on. Despite her various states of lucidity, Mom liked to watch the news every morning. Some new war in the Middle East, possible disease outbreaks, grocery prices on the rise. Just another day in paradise. I sit on the bed with her, still sleeping, a picture of Dad on the nightstand. Much happier times. It was an old photo back before he got 7 bullets in him in a standoff outside a meth house he was clearing. Of course, this was before both my brothers moved away. One to start his own family, the other to join the army. One thing I didn't expect to see was a old stuffed rabbit. Since I came home, I just hadn't noticed it somehow. I stood and walked over to it. Picking it up, the memories of when I was a young kid. Anyone could see that it was loved and how loved with how ratty the fur is. One of its ears bent at an odd angle from falling asleep with it so many times. The little rabbit was still wearing a little purple bow around its neck. Matthew 8:10 inscribed on it. Just then, 18:10, my bad. That is an important distinction. Who knows what? Yeah, sorry.
Yeah. No, you're doing fine. You're doing fine.
Just then, I heard an emergency broadcast on the TV. Turning to look, dropping the toy to look. Between beeps, the news changed, showing rolling text on screen. Would you like to read this?
Yes, I would. Shelter in place. Do not go outside until the all-clear notice from the federal government. Close all exits to your home. This is not a test.
The text repeated over and over again through the beeps. I glanced at Mom. I didn't see any tornado watches, and the weather wasn't terrible just a moment ago.
How the hell am I going to move you?
I asked myself. Then I heard the screaming. Rushing to the windows, I saw the animals in the pasture writhing on the ground, screaming. The grass under them shriveling. The sky turned red. In Tornado Alley, I was used to seeing the sky change color, but my stomach sank. I could see the smoke coming from town in the distance. I couldn't see what it was, but I could see things besides just the smoke floating up in the distantness?
Oh, damn. Another typo.
It's okay.
Distance is what that's supposed to say.
It's okay. Yet all I could see was the writhing animals. I fell to my knees, covering my ears as they screamed. The land continued to shrivel up like unwatered houseplants. Yet the horses were just screaming in pain. It went on like that for who knows how long before they stopped. I looked up to see the earth had turned ashy with the end of the screaming. I shakily stood up to check on Mom. She was still sleeping, but I could tell it wouldn't be long. I pulled out my phone. Turning off the TV, I tried calling my brothers. Both didn't answer. I tried my friends. It immediately went to voicemail. In desperation, I dialed 911. I held my breath, hoping someone would answer, someone could help. That's not gonna pan out. Looks like the world just ended.
Yeah, it doesn't look good.
Mm.
I hope you're enjoying the vibe.
I am, dude.
It's pretty rough.
Oh, sorry.
Oh yeah, I was just saying it's a pretty rough one. I just dealt my character.
So I like going deep on like fucked up body horror and disturbing stuff, which this is inspiring me to write my own story, which I think I might do.
Oh God, I hope so. That would feel really good. I'm not gonna lie. I'm purposely like a little vague just because I feel like a lot of people can really the image people can conjure up is pretty fucking horrific.
Mm-hmm.
And as someone who's heard horses scream in pain before, it is a really visceral and horrifying thing to hear. Is like honestly, in All Quiet on the Western Front, I think the second time they made that movie, the part where the horses start getting shelled is like a core memory of mine, and it's yeah, and it's like that's what I was thinking about when I wrote that about the horses screaming. Like, I mean, I've had other like real life examples, but I think that was like one of the earlier ones I had, like before I got to experience the real thing, and it's just like the only thing that like really comes up to me when I first think of it. And it's yeah, I think they kind of hit the nail on the head with that one because it's fucking horrifying.
One thing that type of horror that's always been very effective with me, even though I've rarely ever seen it used, is the idea of anthropomorphizing animals.
Oh yeah,
but in a distinctly disturbing way. Like, listen, if your horse or your dog started talking with you, it wouldn't be cute.
yeah. Oh, absolutely.
It'd be fucking horrifying. Like, there's this one scene in Passion of the Christ. If you've ever seen that movie, you know which one I'm talking about.
Mm-hmm.
I still can't watch it. It makes me barf.
Yeah.
But
animals, man.
But continuing on.
Yes.
After a few rings, I heard a woman's voice.
I'm sorry, but all our lines are busy right now. Please wait.
I held onto Mom's hand. I could tell she was struggling to breathe as we waited. After an hour, I got up to grab a bottle of water. After 2, I laid down next to her as she started to gasp. I held her hand as I cried into a pillow, next to my own mom as she slowly died. I don't know how long it was until I passed out. I woke around 1 a.m., according to my slowly dying phone. The sky looked the same, but as I glanced over, seeing Mom's chest wasn't moving anymore. I put my fingers to her neck, part of me hoping to feel something. Yet I couldn't feel any heartbeat. I wiped my still wet face before getting out of bed with her. I was truly alone. Sometime later, I got up to get some more water, closing her bedroom door behind me. I didn't feel hungry, but my mouth was dry. Yet, as I walked, I could see something out the windows. Some lights in the sky not matching the deep red. They were getting closer, incredibly fast. I rushed to the basement. Mom was gone, but maybe I stood a chance. I punched in the code to the gun safe before pulling out some of the weapons and ammunition. I rushed back up the stairs quickly, loading up the weapons. I could see the lights outside as I mentally prepared myself. Then I heard it. From Mom's room, I heard the floors creak.
Mom?
I asked in a whisper. After a moment, I heard a knock come from her door.
Let's go outside, sweetie.
I heard her say. The knocks were gentle, growing more forceful.
It is okay. I'm okay now. And you will be too.
My hands shaking as I raised a gun to the door.
You aren't coming through that door.
I said, breathing heavily as I could feel the adrenaline pumping through my veins. I heard footsteps walking away from the door, then a bang, then the sound of shattering glass. I slowly moved to the door, opening it to see the bed empty and the window shattered. Keeping the weapon aimed, I walked over, peeking through to see footprints in the dirt a few paces out before disappearing. Yet I could see the strange lights above the porch overhang. They let out a strange buzzing sound. In a moment of frustration, I shot at them. Bang, 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 bang. They didn't move, but that buzzing got louder in response. I backed out of the room, closing the door before dropping the gun and putting my head in my hands. Sometime later, as my stomach started to growl, I picked myself up, along with Dad's old gun. As I walked to the mostly empty kitchen, I grabbed an apple. Munching on it, I walked around the house aimlessly. Eventually, I found myself in the home office. Sitting at the desk, I look out the window to see my old stuffed rabbit. Sitting on the windowsill, staring at its unblinking eyes for a moment before seeing the writing on the glass. How would you say this?
Nolit Timir.
I looked back into the unblinking eyes of the stuffed rabbit before opening the cylinder of Dad's old gun. I took out 5 of the spent bullet casings. I couldn't decide what I was more afraid of, taking the bullet or walking outside. Yet, I hesitated. The computer was still running, so I figured I would delay the inevitable. Maybe someone will read this. Maybe this is wasted words. Regardless, I said what I wanted to. I think I can hear distant speaking. The lights around my house keep moving. I wish they would just break in. Then maybe I wouldn't be so scared to use my last shot. Update. Just as I worked up the courage and put the gun in my mouth, then I heard it. The voices. I could hear my family, all of them begging me to come outside. I can't see them through the windows, but I can hear them. God, I'm scared. I don't know how long I can last. They are getting louder. And that's the end of the story.
So, what did you think?
Ugh.
That freak you out a little bit?
More than a little bit.
Yeah.
Well, just the idea of him falling asleep in bed with his mom as she slowly died, waking up, going downstairs, and her, like, it's implied that something kind of, like, took control of her dead body and was using it to fuck with the author.
Yeah. Oh, man. I'm torn because, okay, so a little bit of that, and this is probably a little fucked up. Just forewarning, my mom actually is still alive. Don't worry, she's fine. But I mean, it wasn't too long ago that I was in the room as my grandma passed away from old age, so I'm kind of intimately familiar with what it looks like to see a person die, and it sucks. It Old age is not like a, oh, you gently fall asleep and pass on. No, it's a long drawn out process, and it sucks. So I was kind of like putting that in there, and imagining someone trapped at the end of the world, only one person that they only know that this one person is alive, and that's their own mother, someone who they love clearly enough to be with them in their last moments alive, and just watch as they slowly die, and there's nothing you can do about it. It's a, I think you can see where my good old clinical depression really came in handy in writing this, because
Yeah.
it's sad. It's sad, and I don't know if like that's like scary to other people, but I thought, like, you know what, that would be, because in that situation, I don't know what I could do at that moment. It would be, would I die, or would I go and walk outside and try to have something else do it for me, or would I just be too scared, just sit in the house, hope
Well,
that they wouldn't break in?
on one side, what you're facing is mortality. But on the other side,
Mhm.
you don't know what the hell is outside, what the hell's
Yeah.
going on. You don't know if a fate worse than death is ahead of you if you walk out there.
hmm You have just no idea. All you know is that the world as you know it is over. It's done. There's nothing you can do.
Do you think
And
about
it's
the world ending a lot?
not really, not so much anymore, but that was kind of, I think that partly was just, like, because I really started showing signs of major depression when I think I was like maybe 12 in middle school, when I first really started to have like very visible depression. I think I kind of just like borrowed from that, of like just feeling that hopelessness of being unable to do anything about being so miserable in such a situation. Because, like, yeah, there are things you can do, but when you're 12 and grow up in not to get too political, but a red state that isn't that interested in you know educating kids on what happens when you're a teenager, on top of just being mentally ill and the stigmas that go with that, you can really fall into that really awful state of mind where it's like nothing I do can help, and I'm just stuck in this miserable situation, and I don't know what to do, and I feel alone, and no one around me really gets it.
Well,
And
if I could
it
confide in
sucks.
you and the
Oh,
audience,
absolutely.
hell yeah,
Absolutely.
I relate. I
Mhm.
There have been many times, even recently, that I've sort of felt just kind of trapped by my own life.
Oh, absolutely. Like, I know better now. Like, and as corny as this might sound, like, medication and therapy, really important. I don't think I would be alive today without it. And I know medication doesn't feel the best all the time. But trust me, when you're that out of it with any mental illness, really, trust me, it's the medication is nowhere near as bad as the illness. Like, I know the meds can not feel great. When I was first medicated, I remember for a week it felt like my head was literally in a vice, but at the same time I could go to school in the morning without crying for at least an hour beforehand, because I was at a point in my life where I had to wake up an hour early to just get tired of crying before I could function for the day.
Damn.
And yeah. So
I don't think I've
that's
ever been quite that bad.
yeah. And don't get me wrong, like, it's, mental illness really should not be like a suffering Olympics where just everyone everyone feels bad at the end of the day because it's very easy. Because I got the a lot growing up, like, oh, you don't have it as bad as others, which is never tell anyone that, because that is wholly terrible advice that just makes everyone feel like shit.
Well, because everyone's different. Some people go through really hard experiences that would just destroy someone else, and they live with it fine. They're able to function and be a completely normal member of society and get through it. Let's say they experience severe periods of grief. Let's say that they experience PTSD of some form or function, and people are able to, through therapy or help or other things, get past it. But some people just can't. Like, life can be that cruel. That's just a fact of nature. So,
and I know it wasn't.
Go ahead.
Oh, go ahead. No, go ahead. I was going to go on to something unrelated.
Right. So the fact that there doesn't need to be a one-upsmanship whenever talking about personal suffering, because what's one person's foothill is another person's mountain.
Yeah. Absolutely. But and I know it wasn't that big of a story, but there's another like personal fear of mine I had for a long time, and it was about the father of the main character. If I don't know if you remember, because it was sort of like just a one-line thing about how he took 7 bullets outside of a meth house. For the audience who probably doesn't know, I don't remember how much I've talked about it, but my dad has been a police officer for all my life. In fact, he's often had to have 2 jobs because it pays like dog shit. And so a personal fear of mine is because he's gotten into several shootings, and honestly, the first time I ever saw my dad cry, and I'll never forget this because I didn't really notice it as a kid, but I'm fairly certain, I'm 99% certain now that he has PTSD. It would honestly explain a lot. When I got old enough to realize what that meant, I was often afraid that my dad would never come home one day. And I loved my dad, but like I said, he had to work 2 jobs. We didn't get to see him a lot. So it was a personal fear of mine a lot growing up. Probably doesn't help. I'm mentally ill, so that compounded on top of it. That maybe one day I'll never see my dad again. But first time I ever saw him cry is it was a day after a shooting. And get this, so he arrests this guy, right? Guy was writing faulty checks, committing check fraud, really.
Yeah.
Guy's arrested in the back of the patrol car. Dad's doing something. Guy gets, somehow manages to get out of his cuffs, hops in the front seat, tries to run Dad over. Dad shoots several times. One of the bullets came within an inch of hitting the guy's head. I believe one did hit the guy in the arm as he drove away in the cop car. Now, keep in mind, like, check fraud, like, guy could have maybe gotten like 6 months in jail. That immediately got changed to attempted murder of a police officer, which I believe he ended up getting like 10 years for. And crazy enough, my current boss, his wife actually pulled, they know my dad pulled, so she pulls up right next to him right as that just happened. And she's like, "Hey, how are you doing?"
Oh,
and he's
Jesus.
like, you need to get out of here right now. She's like, "Wait, why? What's the problem?" He's like, "Just get out of here."
Oh, jeez.
But yeah, it was a whole manhunt. And Dad nearly died that day. Like, the car just barely missed him. And so, he got into a shooting. They had a whole manhunt. They eventually find the guy bleeding out in the woods. And, Dad's off work for a bit because, almost died and was in a shooting. So they have to do the whole investigation.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember we're sitting in this place that has pretty decent breakfast food. And we're just talking, it's relatively normal. Like, I knew about the shooting. Like, my brother and my older brother was actually the first one who showed up because like the first thing you want to do when someone's like in a shooting, especially if they actually shoot someone, is get family out there because people when you kill someone or hurt someone really bad, a lot of people will turn that gun on themselves.
Oh, Jesus.
So like one of the first things you want to do is get someone out there that they know that can support them. My older brother was the first one out there. My mom shortly after. I didn't learn about it till way later. But
for the
like
record, for psychological reasons, that's one of the reasons that they teach people in the army to think more in terms of target and not in terms of person.
Yeah. It's
helps
because it
you
will
sort of,
destroy you.
you know, it helps you sort of pack that baggage away so that you can accomplish your job. And let me tell you, it doesn't work.
Yeah. There's only so much that can possibly be done, you know, unless you're like a total psychopath, which most people aren't. But yeah, it was like the next day, or maybe like the day after, right? A day or two after, we're just having a conversation, enjoying breakfast, and it was nice because, like I said, Dad often worked 2 jobs. He wasn't there. It was nice. We're just talking, and then he just breaks down crying in the middle of a restaurant. Never seen Dad cry before, and he was like that for like 10 minutes, and it's that honestly kind of broke something inside me that day because I'd never seen him that vulnerable, and it honestly hurts as a memory to this day.
Because you kind of want to think of your dad as like this, like stone like foundation to you and your family.
Yeah, Dad was always the rock of my family growing up. If like he was, you know, I mean, it's like that's part of growing up is you kind of realize your parents aren't perfect. They're not, you know, like these all-knowing beings, but it really hurts seeing that, especially when it's something so traumatic as them nearly dying. But yeah, I'm glad but yeah, that's sort of another sort of fear of mine that I kind of felt like I really played into. I know some of the grammar wasn't perfect, but
no, it's okay.
I'm glad it can be looked over.
Maybe another read through to touch up on a couple places, but I did really enjoy it.
Yeah. Granted, I just like cranked this out real quick in like an hour or two.
So
yeah.
If you could indulge me for a moment, because we still have some time left on the episode.
Absolutely.
I wouldn't mind talking about potentially some ideas for my own story, which I'm not going to like give all the details out of what I'm stirring up, but it would be kind of fun to talk about. I've had this idea for a horror story series that takes place during a second American Civil War.
Ooh. Specifically, I remember you mentioning this.
Specifically because, like, listen, I've hung out with, like, all different types of people from all different walks of life and political backgrounds. And there was a time, I think you remember, like, around 2018, 2019, whenever there was a lot of dangerous conversation about what people thought should be done in our country. And, there were times when for the people who were in my social circles were kind of talking that way and thinking about that way. And one thing that I knew because of my experience is that if you had war in America in the modern day, it wouldn't be some sort of like glorious adventure.
Oh, absolutely. Which war never is.
No, it never is.
But yeah, it would be rough. Yeah, we're talking a lot of the population has guns, so immediate guerrilla war. A lot of riots, a lot of just really bad situation all around. Civil wars are terrible things.
Civil wars are horrible. They're horrible for everyone involved. And I wanted to write a horror story series called Old Glory about it. Not only does it talk about the idea of being sort of disenchanted by the idea of blind patriotism, but it also disenchanted with the idea that anything good can come from a war.
Oh, absolutely.
I have some of my own personal stories, some stories from people who I know and care a whole lot about, and other things, like other experiences, like things I've read, stories from like veterans from different parts of the world, especially from the places like the Middle East and Eastern Europe. God, you should read some of those stories. Like some of the stories that these retired Soviet soldiers had to say about like Afghanistan and other places like that. They may have fought in the same place, but they did not fight the same kind of war.
You know what's crazy to me is some people don't know this, which I think is crazy, is that the Russian government, which, keep in mind, is not the Soviet Union as much as they want to be, as much as Vlad would love to be the Soviet Union again. Russia is not the Soviet Union. The Russian government has lost more soldiers in Ukraine than the Soviet Union, which, keep in mind, was way bigger and had way more resources. The Russian government has lost more people in Ukraine than the Soviets did in Afghanistan.
Which was a war that basically bankrupted the USSR. Am I right?
Yeah, which, like, granted, the USSR at that point, like, the USSR was not really, basically since it came to be, did not have a functioning economy. But they wasted so many resources in that war that it really fucked with them, and it didn't help that it basically showed the world that the Soviet army was not invincible. Because, I mean, they hadn't really fought directly in a conflict for some time. And it just really shattered that idea that, oh, the Soviet army can't be beaten. And that's part of the reason why it kind of inspired the Warsaw Pact citizens to, get rid of their Soviet overlords, especially once the Soviet government introduced glasnost and perestroika, sort of opening up both the economy and the government, allowing some free speech and whatnot. Which, it was a disaster, though. And in fact, one of the biggest problems that the Soviet government faced is Russian mothers and wives basically kept going, like, protesting, and they're like, hey, where's our sons and husbands? And even the Soviets knew, like, it was such a bad look to arrest, like, old grandmas, old babushkas.
Right.
Like, it's a really bad look, But yeah, anyway. Oh, there was, not to get too off from what you were saying, I don't know how much you want to keep going on that.
There's a couple things, but keep going.
There was one more old childhood fear of mine that I don't think you picked up on.
Oh.
And I'm so torn onto whether I should reveal it or not, but I think I will.
Is it okay, so I'm thinking of the rabbit with the phrase in French. Is it the idea that the rabbit is kind of alive?
No. That is a part of my childhood. I had an old plush rabbit that I loved, and it didn't have the writing on it. It didn't have the writing on it, but it did have a purple bow on it. So that's straight ripped from my childhood. But weird thing, I never named that rabbit, but I always called her a she or a her, and I loved that thing. I'm pretty sure my mom still has it somewhere in like my parents' basement somewhere, and I hope so, because if I ever have children, I'm gonna give them that rabbit. I love that thing to death and back.
It's extra funny to me now that you're such a big Angel Hair fan.
Yes, like that's part of the reason I really like Angel Hair, is I'm like, that speaks to me largely because I had a stuffed rabbit that was my favorite stuffed toy, and I loved that thing, and I never stopped loving it, even as I was like a really like boy's boy, I guess. But and that's not French that you read.
Oh,
that is
really?
Latin.
Oh, okay.
Yes. It was the fear of God.
Oh.
Now let me explain. So currently, I'm an atheist, but for a while, I for a good chunk of my childhood, I believed in God. I believed the all good kind of stuff. Now this is blasphemy, so if y'all are too religious, feel free to let me know how much I'm going to burn in hell in the comments.
No. Well, engagement is engagement, so if you feel like
Yeah,
saying
that's
that
true.
he's going to burn in hell, please do say it.
Yes,
Get
yes, let
those
me know.
comments up.
I've heard it all before, but for a while I was what was called a misotheist. Now, a misotheist is someone who believes in a god, but believes that they are either evil or undeserving of worship and love. Now, that's not to say it, but like I was also of the position that if there is like this all-powerful thing out there, that like what could I possibly do about that? And that like kind of scared me. Now, if you notice, there was the Matthew 18:10. Do you know that Bible verse?
Not off the top of my head.
All right, here. Let me pull it up real quick.
I could pull it up as well.
Yeah.
18:10.
Yes. See that you do not despise one of these little ones, for I tell you that in heaven their angels always see the face of my Father who is in heaven. That rabbit was basically sort of a guardian angel of some sort. And the whole unblinking eyes, kind of like the all-seeing eyes and The Great Gatsby. Not to say that I wrote, The Great Gatsby. God, no. I did not write the great American novel. It's only like 1,400 words.
Hey,
But I was like, I thought that would be fitting.
hey, Hemingway, whenever he was learning how to write, would just straight up copy down books from his favorite authors and write them verbatim with his typewriter to get the flow of what writing a great novel would be.
Shit, hey, if it works. And, I
Wait,
doubt I'll go out and write the
Was
great
that
novel.
Hemingway or Hunter S. Thompson? I can't fucking remember now.
It was one of them.
Yeah, I recently have read books about both of them, so I'm kind of got my wires crossed.
But you see, I'm kind of ripping off of Angel Hair with that, but like implying that there's something angelic and protector, like, of that rabbit. And, the rabbit appeared there on its own. Like, I left it vague enough that maybe, if someone doesn't see this, they could come to the conclusion that, like, something was moving it around. But with the unblinking eyes of that rabbit, that Bible verse specifically. And do you know what in Latin "liet timere" means?
I do not.
It means "be not afraid" or "don't be afraid."
If anyone tells me not to be afraid in that creepy ass way, guess what? The opposite has been accomplished.
It's like that meme of like, "Be not afraid, sir. This is the most terrifying moment of my life." Yeah. So, and keep in mind the lights in the sky. Like I've heard like the idea of like, oh, like like, oh, when the rapture happens, people will just fly up into the sky. In the smoke, what the point of view character was seeing, he was seeing that happen to people. If you remember what happened with the mom's corpse, she rose up, broke out of the house, walked a few feet outside, and then her tracks disappeared. She literally flew up, was just raised up.
Oh shit! I did not really pick up on that.
So
Wow.
and the strange lights with the sort of buzzing, and I make sure on the second time to put a little question mark there. The main character isn't sure that's actually buzzing. Could it be the flaps of wings, perhaps? Buzzing, who knows?
You know what? Fuck those Left Behind books and movies. For the people who are going to heaven, their troubles are over. But for the people that get left behind in that situation, that is the apocalypse.
Yeah.
That is horror.
So,
that is ripe for horror story.
Now, like, granted, I grew up in sort of a Methodist belief system where, like, we didn't really put a whole lot of stock in the rapture. Like, if anything, like, it's mostly, like, a lot of the apocalyptic stuff is largely just viewed as, like, a way people tried to cope with the turbulent times. But, like, the whole point of, like, Methodism was, from my understanding at least, is all about, like, creating the kingdom of God in the moment. It's why they taught, if you ever go to like a Methodist church, they basically nonstop talk about like redeeming yourself in the here and now. And that's why they keep going on and on about like the Last Supper and how like everyone's invited to the table.
I believe that Presbyterians have a similar point of view.
Yeah, like I'm like that's not necessarily like an only them thing, but I have been to a Catholic church once a few times and gotten mass, and it is a very different experience. But I sort of like the idea of like the rapture or the biblical like end of the world from an atheist perspective, or at the very least, like if you're not thinking about it in religious terms, would be scary as fuck.
Yeah, for one, a fundamental belief that you had was just proven undisputably wrong. Mm-hmm. Like there is a God, and He didn't want you.
Mm-hmm. And keep in mind, I grew up in the belief system of like everyone can and should be redeemed. So hell, it's part of the reason like I love the show like Has Been Hotel, because I fully buy into the belief system that anyone can be redeemed even if I'm not religious anymore. And that's the thing about the story, is never directly said whether those possibly angels are going to kill him. They just want him to come outside. Perhaps he will rise up, perhaps they will strike him dead. But they're very insistent he comes outside. I wanted to leave it vague as to whether he would be redeemed or she, because I never specify it could be a man or woman.
That's true. I didn't pick up on that, but that is true.
But they just want him to come outside, despite the rejection, because he never says like he believes in God. He never breaks down and prays, or she. The POV character doesn't break down and pray. They don't do anything like that. They even actively reject through taking pot shots at these angelic figures. But it's never directly said whether they're damned to hell, or if they're going to be left behind. But that's the thing. The angels are above his house anyway, trying to get him to come out. And I know it's vague enough that, like, I know you didn't get it, and a good amount of people probably won't. But, like, that's what I was thinking of. I was like, well, let's play into that fear of God at one point that I had.
Oh, man.
I mean, I don't really believe that anymore. Like, I'm a full-blown atheist. I'm no longer a misotheist. I'm like, I came to the conclusion that I think I'm just hating on nothing. But, professional hater out here. But,
oh my.
But I know, blasphemy. Let me know in the comments how much of a blasphemer I am. But I thought that was a really cool way to go with it. And like I said, you can see why I was like, I'm tempted to tell you or not, but I think it's all right.
No, I thought with that added context, man, I some of that went a little over my head.
Mm-hmm. Like, I wanted to keep it vague because I really do believe that in horror, you should really leave it to the imagination a lot of the time. Like, it's part of the reason why I never describe the lights as anything but lights. Like, maybe they're figures, maybe not. Maybe they're all bright, blinding yellow. Maybe they're various colors. But I feel like people can put that in their own mind really well. And I think like the image of of animals in that kind of pain is a really visceral thing. That the feeling of a loss, all that suffering. Maybe they're in purgatory. Not really like I intended that, but like thinking about it now, maybe their suffering will lead to something. But again, I didn't write it with that intention, but a lot of the religious bits and pieces, because I didn't want to lay it on too heavy, otherwise I feel like people would get it too easily, and I'm a rat bastard. But oh, cool! I already have 7 upvotes. That's neat.
Well, yeah, that's well. The No Sleep subreddit is one of the most active subreddits on the website.
Yeah.
So, like, people getting through the read there, That's pretty neat.
Yeah.
Hey,
7 Up
thank
notes
you
and like
so much for writing this story and having us read it for the podcast. I thought that
yeah,
was
no
a
problem.
lot of fun. And I
Yeah, no
believe
problem.
next episode we will be doing A Shattered Life.
Yes, we will get back to our regularly scheduled programming.
And maybe sometime after that we'll be reading a story that I wrote. Who knows?
Hell yeah.
We'll see.
Yeah, it'll be really cool.
It'd
I'm
be
sure it will
fun.
be.
It'd be a fun little writing challenge.
Yeah, it'll be cool. Plus, I'll always have more excuse to play video games to make footage for people.
Video,
So hell yeah.
for sure. Plus the humanity fuck yeah videos. Like what I don't like about their coverage on YouTube so much is that there's so many fucking crappy AI videos.
Yes. Crappy AI. Like, I'm not of the belief that AI can never be used. I think it's generally not very good at making art. But, like, to me, at the very least, it's a single tool in the toolbox. You can use other things. Please, I beg you.
But there's
I
so many of
beg
these
you.
like clearly like machine created sites that are just
Oh,
using
absolutely.
like AI images without like they're basically plugging in the basic summary of the story into the AI image creator and creating an image.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
then they're
it's
having
very
basically
basic.
it's basically art by factory, like art by production line.
Like, at the very least, like, go and steal, like, concept art from, like, Stellaris or something. Like,
Yeah, you
please.
lazy fucks. Some of them do a good job, but like the ones whenever people
Yeah.
are actually reading them, like what we do, those ones are good ones. But
Hell
hey,
yeah, they are.
thank you all for listening. We'll see you next time.
Yeah.
See
Later.
ya. Later. Oh, what? Not trying to open Minecraft, motherfucker.
Minecraft.